All right, so a couple of things happened last week at the State House we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Every Thursday, Idaho Freedom Foundation hosts what they call Capital Clarity, something they started during the 2021 legislative session. They invite people to the Lincoln Auditorium at the State House to talk about all kinds of things, whether it falls under the cover of the Capitol or not. For topics like education, or like when they invited Dr. Ryan Cole to speak, or when they talk about gun rights like they were doing last week. And that was when Republican Senator Scott Herndon stood up to talk about what was happening in the Education Committee. Guns to education, kind of made that leap there. But how he wanted to introduce an education savings account bill, but the committee chair, Senator Dave Lent, was holding that proposal, or putting it in a desk drawer, as it were, instead of allowing it to be heard, according to Herndon. Senator Herndon explained if legislation is supposed to be the voice of the people, then a bill in a drawer is the same as taxation without representation.
And I'll just remind us that historically, Americans responded in a very particular way to taxation without representation. And we would like not to get to that point, but if it came down to it, we would. But hopefully we're going to have the political fight before we have the real fight.
Americans responded in a very particular way to taxation without representation. If you remember the American Revolution with the Tea Parties and the shooting and the bombs bursting in air and stuff like that, we'd like to not get to that point, he said, but if push came to shove, we would. I asked Senator Herndon if he thought those words would be considered a threat. And this is what he said today. That would be negative. It most certainly was not a threat. We have way too many political tools to ever have that possibility. My point was that the early Americans took taxation without representation seriously, and a lack of representation is still a serious issue to Idahoans, he said. Didn't agree to an on-camera interview, but this is what he told us in email. And whether or not our souls are being tried these days, these words in these times certainly seem to stoke the embers of those who show up to events in, like, I don't know, Nampa, and ask things like, when do we get to use the guns? Remember that? So Senator Herndon said he'd rather have a political fight before a real fight. So we'll see if the outcome of the former leads to the latter.